All right. Happy, beautiful, amazing evening. I received a lot of requests after I posted a video of a gentleman that had congestive heart failure, and he had a phenomenal recovery. And I thought it'd be a lot easier just to do a Zoom and share the nutrition protocol. So if you saw the video, very powerful. This is Ron Worley. On August 16th of 2016, he said that he actually dropped dead of cardiac arrest. Fortunately, his wife was there to at first revive him with CPR, which then again failed, and then other health professionals brought him back with an automated external defibrillator. Very good device. He was told that his direct ejection fraction was about 10%, make it very, very difficult to have a normal life since the normal ejection fraction is 65%. After that incident with the level of cardiac damage and challenge, he was told that there was about a 2% chance of survival. So he was already a walking miracle at that point. He said he tried about everything under the sun for 3 years, every type of nutrition product from everybody that had at least reasonable background to make a recommendation, and stem cells, again, with basically no results. Was on multiple medications for congestive heart failure. I don't have a release to release the medication, so I won't tell you what that was. He said that he had 13,000 premature ventricular contractions per day. Now, that's certainly a huge number, but understand your heart beats 60, maybe 72 times a minute, 60 minutes an hour, 24 hours a day. So by the time you get that number down to less than 800, that's considered normal and acceptable, and basically, very rare in terms of the number of PVCs. Within 10 days, his cardiologist told him his heart is as healthy as a healthy 30-year-old. He's working out again, breathing normally, and is having a happy, healthy, beautiful existence. This was Ron before his heart issue. He was a competitive bodybuilder in contest shape. So you can see he looks like he had a pretty healthy lifestyle, eating right and exercising. And I had shared a video of this woman, which I reposted. She had well over 20 years of heart failure, congestive heart failure, and was actually on a cardiac transplant list. We put her on a pretty good protocol. I have a video of that, and it completely resolved for the cardiologist, so that's phenomenal. I didn't have a release to share her protocol, so I won't. But let's share with what we most recently did, which this is a really good protocol. And then I'll give you the background behind it. So for 10-day protocol, I recommended 4 shakes per day. There was a blend of a functional food for inflammation. For those of you wanting to know, it's called Inflammise from Nutridyne. Then we used OGX from the company Organo and OGDX. This is Ganoderma and super high quality grass-fed organic whey protein. And this one has a number of botanicals, which are known to alkalize the system, modulate the inflammatory process, and promote healing. We did 20,000 IU per day of a blend of D3 and K2. So D3 was the one that was 20,000 AU, much smaller amount of K2. We did 2 milligrams of melatonin every waking hour. Some of my students have heard this before. I've definitely done it. Melatonin buffers the stress on the body. That's very powerful. And we know that stress is going to aggravate almost anything that's not healthy. There was an article entitled The Hallmarks of Cancer, and it showed that melatonin actually was powerful against the 10 hallmarks of cancer. We also did 200 milligrams of theanine every waking hour. That's a GABA facilitator. GABA, believe it or not, a very calming neurotransmitter, is also very, very good for the heart. I realized that I didn't put down taurine. So we did taurine, 5 grams, a lot of it. TID, 3 times a day on that. So another part that can stabilize the heart membrane potential. We did activated omega-3s along with that's what's known as resolvins, and a mix of EPA and DHA. Total of 3 of those per day. And each capsule was 600 milligrams of EPA, DHA, 400 micrograms of the resolvins. 2 Ganoderma spores, again from Organo, every waking hour. Good to use high quality products. These have super high nutrient bioavailability. We did 100 milligrams of nanonized coenzyme Q10 4 times a day. and then 600 milligrams per day of time-release lipoic acid. And lipoic acid, by the way, is the bridge between anaerobic energy, or energy that doesn't use oxygen, and aerobic energy. So because I'm a science guy, let's give some references. Most of us know that cardiovascular is a top killer in the US. Mark Houston is a cardiologist, a runner-up Rhodes Scholar winner. And he says that even though there are over 1,000 biomarkers for cardiac disease, there are 3 and only 3 causes: inflammation, oxidation, and autoimmune. So when we start talking about the inflammatory process, Time Magazine called it the secret killer. And I'll mention how a lot of people get inflammation. Some of it is too much stress. But Jay Lombard, I did a conference series with him years ago. He made the statement that insulin resistance is inflammation. And he is exactly right. When you have insulin resistance, it raises at least 5 inflammatory markers in the system. So when I put people on a comprehensive nutrition program, we start out with food, nature's foods. If God made it, it's okay. If man made it, don't touch it. We go with superfoods. My favorite superfood is Ganoderma. Whey is also considered by many a superfood. There's others like goji and acai. Some even consider blueberries and honey superfoods, and they certainly have a lot of good qualities. Medical foods or functional foods are foods that are known to modulate a very specific pathway or biochemical issue in the body. So we use the one for anti-inflammation. Within that is built a multivitamin, multimineral. We do activating omega-3s, probiotic, as well as D3, K2 combo. I didn't mention the probiotic, but I did an anti-inflammatory probiotic for him as well. Not high dose. That was 1 a day. So when we start looking at diet, it's said that the standard American diet literally causes evolutionary suicide. Basically, if you want to die early, eat the standard American diet. Now, there are some buffers. So for instance, we know that this study here shows that Ganoderma actually can protect the body from some of the very damaging effects of the standard American diet. This one's a little out of sequence. That's the one that shows that insulin resistance is inflammation. I'm a huge fan of keto and paleo diet. So the title of this book is called Keto for Cancer. Keto, or a low glycemic index diet, is very, very good for insulin and cardiovascular. We may have some lay public on here. So low glycemic index means it doesn't cause spikes within your blood sugar. And I really like every color every day. So this is a pretty good picture of some pretty reasonable keto choices. When people have a chronic inflammatory condition, often that inflammation comes from the gut. So there's things called leaky gut. We can put people on extreme gut protocols, and we often do. I didn't do this in the case of Ron, but we may need to seal and heal the gut. Glutamine is good for that. Colostrum is good for that. We may need to replace good bugs. We may need to enhance digestive enzyme. We need to eliminate reactive foods, and often make sure that the patient is having good regular bowel function. But part of why we did Ganoderma every waking hour, peer-reviewed medical study shows that Ganoderma can protect the effects of bad foods and abolish the gut-induced inflammation. I was at the conference where Farhad Murad, the guy that led the team that discovered nitric oxide, shared his research. And we know that nitric oxide is an incredible molecule. It can dilate the blood vessels by as much as 62%. And one of the things that we know is that inflammation is actually the thief of nitric oxide. So inflammation devours nitric oxide. In fact, there's a form of inflammatory nitric oxide that goes up as much as 1,000x in an acute inflammatory episode. So our omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, our medical food is anti-inflammatory, and then guess what? We've got Ganoderma, which is anti-inflammatory by at least 12 different mechanisms, and is also a powerful regulator of nitric oxide. By the way, it's also good as an antioxidant, an anti-tumor, an anti-ulcer, and an antiviral. And this can be very, very important in preventing abnormal blood clotting. So when people have arrhythmia, one of the things that doctors will often do is put them on a blood thinner. Now, Coumadin is one, Plavix is another. There's more even out there today. But what these blood thinners do is they actually prevent normal clotting and they promote abnormal bleeding. So the incidence of bad effects on those drugs is about 1 in 11 people that take them have a very significant bleeding episode. So in this case, we used Ganoderma, which prevented abnormal clotting but did not promote abnormal bleeding. Here was a study where they gave rats a very powerful clotting agent, and they could cause a heart attack or stroke in 100% of the animals. And they wanted to figure out, okay, what dose of Ganoderma would prevent the heart attack or stroke even with this clotting agent. It turned out to be 60 micrograms per kilogram body weight. So those that want to check the references, PubMed ID 217-88727. They could also do it with aspirin, but it took 20 milligrams per kilogram body weight. So for instance, if you took my body weight, I'm the 70 kilogram male, I could have 2 cups a day of Ganoderma infused coffee, or I could take 9 baby aspirin a day. I think most people know that 9 baby aspirin wouldn't be a good idea. Within a short period of time, it would be highly likely that I would experience some gut bleeding. So when we look at a lot of the things that are related to heart disease, certainly insulin problems, cholesterol problems, high blood pressure, poor diet, right? Lack of exercise and cigarettes are some of the big issues there. But we know that Ganoderma protects by lowering the total cholesterol, lowering the LDL, lowering the triglycerides, preventing fatty liver. That's all within that study. By the way, it also increases HDL. So some of our other amazing nutrients, coenzyme Q10, I use a nanonized form. But this was the European Heart Journal, and this was what the study said. It was the first drug to improve heart failure mortality in over a decade. So pretty powerful statement there. When we start looking at this study used both taurine and magnesium. Magnesium is considered nature's natural calcium channel blocker. By the way, anything that's green should have magnesium in it. Magnesium is the central molecule of chlorophyll, just like iron is the central molecule of hemoglobin in the human body. So when we eat plants, we should get plenty of really good magnesium. I didn't give any straight up magnesium in this case, but I did give taurine. And so notice it says taurine regulates multiple ion channels and can be very, very good for arrhythmia. Omega-3s, notice this reference here says that omega-3s prevent cardiac arrhythmia mostly by protectins and resolvins. So I ought to probably make that a little more visible on that PubMed ID 189510002. So that's why I like to use the activated form of omega-3. Here's a study that shows that both melatonin and omega-3 had anti-arrhythmic effects. And then when we stimulate the GABA system, this specifically said that we could prevent arrhythmia of the ventricle, which, by the way, that's what PVCs are, premature ventricular contractions. And theanine is something that naturally increases GABA. So notice we did melatonin every hour, we did theanine every waking hour, we did Ganoderma spores every waking hour, because Ganoderma spores, anti-inflammatory, modulate insulin resistance, alkalize the system, very good for other cardiac risk factors like cholesterol, triglycerides, and it also works via a GABAergic mechanism, meaning that it stimulates GABA. So when we go back to the protocol, just by quick summary, severe cardiac challenges, congestive heart failure, 13,000 PVCs a day. And what did we do for the protocol? We did shakes of the functional food for inflammation, Inflamease, mixed that with OGX and OGDX to increase the nutrition and the value of the protein, as well as the cardiac support factors. The D3K2, I didn't show a reference for that, but D3 is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and a pretty common deficiency in our environment. K2 is actually cardioprotective. We did the taurine, we did the melatonin every waking hour, the theanine every waking hour. We did a good blend of omega-3s, which also included the activated omega-3s or the resolvins, 2 Ganoderma spores per waking hour. That was for 10 days. The nanonized form of CoQ10, 100 milligrams 4 times a day. And I didn't mention lipoic acid, but lipoic acid is good for energy. and energy, of course, can be good for the heart. So I wanted to keep this in a fairly tight time frame. Hopefully get people some great information that they can share. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via Facebook or call my office, 281-286-6040. Again, 281-286-6040. I hope sharing this information is going to lead a lot of people to health. Good night, and God bless.